Good afternoon. This is SkyTech here, and this is my review of the Trossen Robotics, what they call the Robot DC Gearhead motor. It's a 6-volt, 180 RPM motor with an encoder. This is what it looks like when it's in one piece. I've had this motor for these motors, I should say, for over a year now, coming up on 2 years actually. I purchased them a while back from TrossenRobotics.com, and I'll put a link in the description. They cost about $29.95, and it's another $4 to have them shipped to California, and whatever sales tax applies to that. And I bought them for a project I was going to. I originally bought two of them for a project, putting them on the bottom of a robot that was made out of an old vacuum cleaner, and since then, I've put them on several different creations, and the most recent one was a Mac Classic, which I turned into a robot, and I'll do a video on that someday once I get it back together eventually. But they have a pretty common failure mode, and that's why I'm making this video, because I'm sort of ticked off about this, that I paid $30 for these things. They're not bad, really. I'm sure they're great for lighter applications, but for the price I paid for it and the specs that it showed on the data sheet, these things just did not at all live up to my expectations. You can see they have an encoder on the back here. I don't know if you can read that. Focus, bastard. There we go. It's got a Hall effect sensor in here, which is part of that right there. There's a wheel around here for it somewhere. Here we go. I honestly haven't ever really used this. When I first got these motors, I hooked it up to an Arduino and, played around with it a little bit. Tried doing. It's great for if you're trying to, do constant RPM stuff, or if you're trying to, count rotations. It's awesome for that, I would assume. But I can't really attest to this because I've never really put it to practical use. So screw that. Well, let's talk about the motor. The Gearhead. Well, let's talk about the Gearhead first, because it's like probably the best part about this whole package. This is the Gearhead. It's inside this little, looks like pot metal. It's got kind of rough cast pot metal type feel, really light. But the gears themselves they're those kind of gears where they're made out of like compressed powder. So I mean, they're not going to be the strongest, and I imagine they probably will wear out someday, but for what this thing is, these really aren't bad. We can see it's got a nice reduction there, and then it's got this little bastard that goes on the motor, which I had to take off to take apart the motor, obviously. So no complaints really about the Gearhead. It's it's what you'd expect in something like this. I'm sure there's crappier ones than this out there. Let's talk about this motor. So, first of all, let's zoom in on this a little bit here. Let me get, if you can see this, right around the inside here, point with this random piece of wire from my desk. This kind of gunk around here, what that is solder. And where it came from is right in here. You can see that very well. Man, camera sucks. It's apparently this overheated at some point. I don't know really why. I know why. It probably got too much load, too much current. It was ran 6 volts through a Sabertooth controller, and I'm kind of disappointed by how easily these things burned out. And if you look here, you can see this. Let me change the focus a little bit more toward the macro in here so I can really get in here and show you this. There's this ring. Sorry about how dirty my fingers are. This grease in this Gearhead gets everywhere. I know it's disgusting. This ring right here is just all melted and coming off. And as a result of that, you can tell It's not easy to move it, but this whole commutator assembly is actually separated from this rod now. And I'm guessing that contributed to the failure of this. What happened is it started tripping the overcurrent detection on my controller, which is really super annoying. And I mean, obviously it was underperforming as well. But so that's kind of disappointing. There doesn't seem to be any indication that they tried to balance this motor at all. Sometimes you see, little grind marks on these or drill marks around the front or the back. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there's some sort of another method of balancing these smaller motors that I'm unaware of. But I don't see any indication that they tried to balance this, which I'm not super surprised about that. It's just a cheap little shitty motor. But it's got, cheap shitty bearings, front and back. The back end of it here, the brushes don't look too bad, honestly. I was expecting them to look way worse when I opened it. They're a little bit goobered up in there. But, I mean, all in all, I was expecting this whole assembly to be melted, because when I was turning the shaft of the motor, it was making all kinds of clicking, grinding sounds, and it turns out, I think really what all that noise I was hearing was this little melted bastard right here rubbing against the brushes. So, really it's a case of getting what you pay for normally, but I feel like I paid more for this than I really should have, because I mean, this is, let's face it, this is like a $35, almost $40 motor, and it really didn't last that long. I should say I've actually bought a total of 3 of these now, because one of them failed right away. Well, not right away, but fairly quickly, out of the pair I originally bought. So I bought a replacement for it, and the replacement lasted slightly longer, but they both ended up failing pretty close to each other. So I've had 3 of these now, and all 3 of them have failed, and I will not be buying any more of them. Trossen Robotics, I'm sure they got a lot of cool stuff, but this really isn't one of them. You can get very similar motors to this on eBay for about anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks. I ordered 2 of them. I think they were $11. So I'll be making a review video of those in comparison video with this one. I'm planning to save this one, because this one, out of all 3 of them, I think this one is in the best shape. It doesn't really make any clicking noises. And this is the most recent one I bought. This is the one I bought to replace the original one that failed. So once the eBay ones come in, I'll take them apart and show the differences on the inside and stuff. I'm expecting the gears to be a lot shittier on those ones. But Trossen Robotics and Sgmada, whatever that says. I'm not a fan. I do like the bracket. I like the gearhead. The motor sucks. Have a good day. Hey, I just want to show you this real quick. This is the actual page on Trossen where they sell this bad boy. And I just noticed something down here. It says this motor is ideal for small robots. It says the weight limit's 2 to 5 pounds. Maybe if my robot had been a little bit lighter, I think it was about like 6 pounds, maybe 6 to 8 pounds. But I don't know, maybe if it had been a little bit lighter, that wouldn't have happened, perhaps. Maybe it was my fault. I don't know. Maybe if I hadn't let it go under this 163 RPM, maybe if I hooked up that encoder, I don't know. I still feel like this part right here is a ripoff. So, well, yeah.